A court in Europe has determined that failure to act on climate change is an offense, that governments should have been doing more to prevent it, that they are liable in some way, and maybe that's a good thing, or maybe it's crazy, or maybe it's no news at all. Joining me today to discuss this is Herbert from Brighter, who does great work. He's over there at, he's at Brighter with Herbert, and we're going to discuss it. So I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Herbert, I don't know if you saw this little tidbit of news, but apparently, there's some European court has ruled that human rights were violated by climate inaction. A group of older Swiss women have won the first ever climate case victory in the European Court of Human Rights. The women, mostly in their 70s, said that their age and gender made them particularly vulnerable due to the effects of heat waves linked to climate change. What do you make of this? Is this a thing? Is this going to result in any actions? Any thoughts?
Obviously, I think that climate change is a real thing. And so any kind of victory, court case, trying to change laws, that's great. Now, I don't know anything about what's happening in Switzerland. Does that mean that they've not been, in action? They really have not been doing anything compared to everyone else? Do they not have, electric vehicles there? They're not promoting it. And then your question of whether or not this actually will do anything, I don't know. It's hard to know with these kind of legal battles and what happens.
There was a case in France where a former mayor sued the government saying, hey, my entire city is at risk of being washed away because of climate inaction. And they dismissed his case because he had since moved. And that's crazy because he says, my city, I'm going to be underwater and I have to stay in the danger zone. Come on. Now you can look at it from a simpler perspective. Let's look at something like there are power lines next to my house and a big tree that's owned by the city, that's on city property, that's tipping over towards my house, and that tree is clearly dead. Shouldn't we address that and try and make that kind of thing a little better? Because in that case, you can see clearly the city was not active enough. They needed to address it. And if the tree then falls, I've got damages. This is a little harder to prove. It's a little harder to actually show your damage. Here we've got
If you go back there, though, there's a paragraph there that was interesting that said that the women mostly in their 70s, right? More than 2,000 women are in the Klima Senioren group. They launched a case 9 years ago calling for better protection of women's health in relation to climate change. So it seems like it was kind of a roundabout approach there, right? We want women's health protection in relation to climate change. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, 9 years to get to this point. Things have changed. Have they already taken action since that time? Does this even matter?
Yeah. Yeah. My real question is this ever going to result in any material changes, or are we just suing for fun? Verdicts saying Switzerland violated rights could ripple across Europe. Now, worth noting that this is Europe's highest human rights court, but this is not an EU court. This is not going to automatically affect everyone. But let's see, this was the first time an international court ruled on climate change, and the first decision confirming that countries do have an obligation to protect people from its effects. It could open the door to more legal challenges in the countries that are members of the Council of Europe, which includes the 27 EU nations, as well as many others from Britain to Turkey.
So they have to cut their emissions more to protect human rights. So it's a win for us too, and a win for everyone. So is that a win for us, Tesla investors? Do you think that this will result in more incentives for buying electric vehicles if that's what they're trying to do? Cut emissions is one thing they need to do. What do you think?
I think whenever a new law changes, there are going to be winners and losers, and I think it's clear who the losers would be if any action is taken on climate change. It's the groups who make the most money today, the fossil fuel industry, who make tens, hundreds of billions per day. It is a big industry. Now, there was a case a few years back in Montana where the same thing happened. Uh, a first of its kind climate change trial in Montana, where young environmentalists scored what experts described as a groundbreaking legal victory. But this was years ago, and nothing has changed, leading me to sadly conclude that maybe these are toothless rulings that have no real effect. Montana is one of only a handful of states, including Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New York, to have constitutions with similar environmental protections.
Yeah, if you stop there, that paragraph at the very top, it says that it's up to the Montana legislator, Montana, to determine how to bring the state's policies into compliance, leaves slim chances for prompt changes. Fossil fuel friendly state where Republicans dominate the state house. Yeah. So they have to approve it, even though you've won the lawsuit, right? Governments have to act.
And the ruling provides nothing beyond emotional support for the many cases seeking to establish a public trust right, human right, or a federal constitutional right to a healthy environment. So, unfortunately, yes, it's like winning a judgment against someone who has no money to garnish. You're barking up the wrong tree. Montanans can't be blamed for changing the climate, can't they? Because they export coal to China, so maybe a little bit. I don't know. Uh, if we're going to say that the plaintiffs in the Swiss suit are too old, I'm sure that we will also say that these ones are too young. I'm sure there's always going to be a reason why we can't and definitely shouldn't be listening to people whose lives are affected. Do
You know, that
Yeah,
let's pause it for a second a little bit and just talk about this. So it's interesting that that first lawsuit in Switzerland are the 7 years and younger, and this is the younger folks. Wasn't there like some recent data that came out just this week where they said that the people who are anti-electric vehicles, they're typically the 50 and older, and they've never bought or don't even know much about electric vehicles. They're the ones against it. And so, we know that the young people are the ones that are very pro electric vehicles. And so again, this is just another sign that they are, standing up saying we need to make change. That's great. And then on the 70-year-old, though, that's a surprise that the 70-plus-year-old women are the ones standing up and trying to make this happen. So that's actually quite the surprise.
Well, I would point out that the lawsuit isn't about electric vehicles. It's about sustainability. It's about health. It's about pollution. It's about heat. It's about the actual heat waves, the glaciers shrinking and all that. And it doesn't always matter what the solution is to get there. Maybe what they're saying is more hydro to heat our homes and just no, but, and I would say that the resistance to EVs from the older group is kind of a US phenomenon where I haven't seen the same lack of support in other major markets, but that could be just my own lack of.
Especially the markets that don't have, domestic auto makers.
That's actually a very good point. Is if you're trying to protect your own legacy car companies in, for example, Germany or France or somewhere that has a lot of car manufacturing, Japan, it could be that they're hesitant to support electric vehicles until their home team is making them. I've seen a lot of very crazy comments in the last couple weeks since we've started seeing Q4 numbers for BYD and Tesla and others saying, oh, good, the electric vehicle fad has finally ended. It's all downhill from here. Ice for life, baby. I'm saying, I'd like your life to be longer than if we had just nothing but internal combustion, because they're bad, man. Forget all the benefits of reducing carbon. Well, what if you're on I'll let you answer this in case someone out there doesn't know. What if my power plant is all coal? Isn't that worse?
I need to answer this. It's been answered so many times. It's all bull. Okay.
It's all bull. First of all, very few grids have that much coal in them, but even if they do, it's still better because it's very easy to control emissions at a power plant level and very difficult to do it at a vehicle level. But then you've got the reality that is there are other harmful things that come from not having an EV, like brake dust. Brake dust is nasty stuff. Just yesterday on X, I saw someone posted, oh, here's what my brake pads look like at 130,000 miles. How am I doing? And the answer was, those look like they're not even halfway used yet. you use far less brakes, which result in less fine particulates, which are nasty and can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause all kinds of problems. So there's huge benefits. Go ahead.
Yeah, these are the last breaths, dying breaths, and they're gonna, when somebody's about to die, they're crazy, they're fighting it off and crazy because they know that the ICE vehicles is on its way out. We did a show that 31 countries have now hit that critical 5% of all new cars are being bought as now electric vehicles. And once they've hit the 5%, many of them skyrocket up to 15%, 20% within 2-3 years. And so then this is a indicator. This happens for all new technology. As a new technology comes in, they hit the 5% mark, it's run away at that point and it's over. And so that's where we're at, 31 countries. And so the world is really moving. So the only reason why we in the US feel like maybe this is not yet happening is because it's only 8 to 10% of new car sales here. And that's because of a variety of reasons. But the legacy automakers, you got the people here who are waiting for the bigger cars, the bigger trucks. That's what they want to get, and that's why it's a little bit slower here. But everywhere else, it's over. It's one.
I've seen a lot of people complaining that, oh well, the Cybertruck. I'm just very upset because when I try to tow, now the range is cut in half, and I point out that that's just physics. If you try to tow with your internal combustion truck, your mileage cuts in half. It's the same physics regardless of the drivetrain. It's just that it's easier to put a pair of 20 or 30 gallon tanks on a gas truck than it is to put a ginormous battery on an electric truck. The cost is prohibitive, the weight is complicated, and it gets out of hand pretty quick. But these things are improving every day. And my question is this lawsuit going to make any difference, do you think?
Obviously, based on what you've said so far, it's unlikely. Legislation have to approve it. Politics comes in the way. There's all these things. But it's it's a good sign that people are standing up and trying to make change. And this is one way to do it.
And it is one way. And I think it's hard enough in Montana where you would have to get the state legislature on board, but harder in Europe when you've got 27 countries that would all have to take individual steps, approve individual things. It would become a real mess in a real hurry.
Yeah, just a reminder that Elon said that, at the end of the day, it's not about electric vehicle versus ICE. It's like, I want to create the best car possible. And when you're trying to create the better car, lower price, doesn't matter at that point. Everybody will buy the better car. And it doesn't matter, that all those considerations of what the drivetrain is. And it just turns out that electric vehicles have so many benefits beyond just the fact that they're better for the environment, right? Right? The torque, the braking, the ability to maneuver, just it's brilliant.
It's all there.
More crumple zones, so it's safer. You can't turn the car, flip the car.
All the pieces. The people in the comments who were saying that, oh no, we're going back to gas. This thing has failed. I thought, you really want a more expensive, slower, less fun, less intuitive. You want all that stuff. Why? I don't get it. But all right. In the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? You got to leave it for us. Otherwise, how will we ever know? And if you get a chance to maybe throw some support, I know the stock is down and it's no fun to support, but hey, you're here, so I appreciate that. Patreon, YouTube, X, any way you like, works for me. For everybody else, like, subscribe, hit the thumb, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots in Switzerland, where I will be next month.